Excellent. All right, let's start this. I'm sorry we started a bit late because I had to get this sorted out. And as usual, we are going to start with the people who posted the questions in the groups first. And if you don't mind, okay, the first question was from Mr. Bala. Thank you, Bala. And again, he starts with speculative question, which says, do you think IRCC is going to attain last year's number of ITAs given the fact that they are left with 14,500 ITAs still to go in just 4 weeks? Can we expect 3 draws, which gives us at least one back-to-back draw? Okay. First of all speculation. Nowhere has CIC ever specified how many draws they're going to do, okay, or how many ITAs they're going to issue. I mean, it hasn't been specified anywhere. So for us to speculate saying that 14,500 ITAs are remaining to go, we don't really know that, do we? Having said that, what they have specified is the targets. And as long as the targets are specified, we can work with those. Targets are always good to work with. And based on the number of ITAs issued, you see, how do they decide on the ITAs issued? It's very relative to the number of immigrants target. If at all the ratio of ITAs being refused, if at all the ratio of people being cancelled, people whose applications are being refused, that is lower, then they don't need to issue that many ITAs, do they? Because the number of ITAs is always relative to the fact of how many people are declining their ITAs, how many people are being cancelled or being refused, because they need to then issue that many more ITAs in order to get or meet their targets. So I guess that's how it is. But yes, we can certainly expect at least 3 more draws for sure. I mean, at least I would be hoping for that. One should be coming up next week, and from there on 2 or 3 more draws is anybody's guess. I would hope for at least 3 more draws to be sure. I mean, to be hopeful rather. So that would be the first one out of the way. Where is my second question? This is going to be okay. From another group, which was our Ontario Immigration Group, Fozia says, I am done with my AORs today. However, my passport is valid for the next 6 months. Will it cause any hindrance to my application? No, Fozia, your application will not be hindered in any which manners, because your expiry date doesn't really define the process time. However, if at all the process time exceeds 6 months, then obviously they need your passport to be valid, and they would expect that your passport remains valid. So they will ask you to get your passport renewed. I would suggest instead get your passport renewed anyways, and then upload it to CIC website so that they can continue with the process. That should obviously make it faster and better. That takes away this question. Then where do we have the rest ones? Okay. Sagar Saxena says, how important it is to order GCMS. Do they really push your file? I know it's an old question, but it's still valid in the current scenario. Sagar, first of all, there is no data, there is no proof, there is no evidence to state that GCMS issuing or GCMS notes pushes your application into getting processed faster, or there is some sort of a prompt to the visa officer. No, there is no such data to prove that. GCMS notes are good to get you an understanding of what's happening with your application. As of right now, the current timelines are like really stretched out. So a lot of people get very anxious and they want to know exactly what's happening with their application. So for that purpose, GCMS notes are quite helpful because the CIC's online account really doesn't give you a lot of information. So yes, by all means do order GCMS notes, but try not doing so before at least 4th or the 5th month, because anything before that won't really give you too much of information because of the way the current processing times are. On the website, or rather on the CIC account, CIC very clearly sometimes states that you will not see any movement in your application until the end of the processing times, because that is where the bulk of the work will happen. So ordering your GCMS notes anytime before 4th, 5th month will not really give you much information or detail. So just hold on to that. And yeah, I mean, as I said, there is no clear data or evidence to show that GCMS notes actually prompts your application to get processed faster. Okay, the next one says, Manoj Goyal, my wife is a bachelor in dental surgery, and I was working as a visiting doctor for 5 months and was paid in cash. So I have following documents related to her work experience. Okay, offer letter, salary slips, experience letter, clearly stating her job responsibilities, certificate from employer that they were paying employees in cash. Would that suffice, or I may need something else also? Okay. First of all, whatever CIC website states in terms of the requirement of documents is the minimal requirement. So whatever you can offer additionally in order to prove your work experience always helps. You have provided offer letter, which is good, salary slips, which is good, experience letter, which definitely you must provide, which clearly states your job responsibilities, because that is how the knock will be validated, and a certificate saying that the employees are paid in cash. So yeah, that's just about it that you can do, and that's more than enough in the current scenario. If you think you can provide anything else, please do, but based on the requirements, this should be, this should do the job. Sachin, if the spouse is on open work permit but not doing job in Canada, she has foreign work experience but not claiming any points for it, can I say no under work experience in Express Entry and later post IT I mentioned the foreign work experience in personal history? Yes, Sachin, as long as you are not claiming any points for your spouse, as long as she has Canadian work experience but you don't wish to claim points for it, you can by all means you can mention no in the work experience, and but definitely mention in the personal history, because that is very important. You will need to at least establish the activity line for your spouse as to what your spouse was doing in the last 10 years. So you have to mention the last 10 years, whatever the activities were, whether you're claiming points for it or you're not. Okay. Excuse me. The next one is from Divanashi Rawat. Would like to know, can even second applicant or co-applicant get sponsorship from province based on their profile, or only first applicant's profiles are screened? Always the primary applicant gets the nomination. So in your case, if the secondary applicant or your co-applicant or your spouse, if that's what you're talking about, a spouse or partner, if they also apply for nomination, if they also file an expression of interest as a primary applicant, then obviously they can also get a nomination. But being part of your application, no, they don't get a nomination. Only the primary applicant gets the nomination. Okay, the next one was Harshita Sunil says, will existing personal loans affect your proof of fund or the visa process? The answer to the question is yes and no. Okay, why? Because we have covered this subject plenty of times about proof of funds as to how the loans can affect or not affect. First of all, CIC has very clearly asked you to mention your liabilities. And the reason why they ask you to list down your liabilities is quite simple, because they want to see if you really have the funds to come to Canada. So you have the funds, which is your settlement funds, but then you also have personal loans. So for example, let me take on top of my head. Let's say the requirement for your proof of funds is 15,772, but you also have unsecured personal loan for 20,000 Canadian dollars, which now basically makes your liquidity or your availability of your funds into minus 4,228 kind of a figure. So basically these funds are not available with you anymore, because you will need to clear your loans when you come back. So as long as you can declare, or rather you should declare, there is no opting out. So you must declare your liabilities or your loans. But as long as you can provide to CIC a payment plan, or how are you looking to clear your liabilities, or how you're looking to get rid of your liabilities before you come to Canada, you should be fine. It will not affect your application process. Altaf says, my wife has secured a student visa for a postgraduate diploma, okay, for 1 year. Would you kindly suggest which visa should I apply for myself and our 2 children to travel with her? A tourist visa, which can then be converted to an open work permit from Canada within Canada, or apply for a student dependent open work permit from outside Canada. Her age is 43. I am 46. Our children are 11 and 6. Which visa does IRCC provide children if the mother is on student visa? Okay, Altaf, you will have to apply for TRV. Now, TRV stands for Temporary Resident Visa, which basically is a visit visa, if you want to call it. Okay, and while you are submitting your application, there'll be various questions and it will ask you. So basically, if you are applying for the visa along with your spouse, when she applies for her student visa, then you can apply together, and it will ask if you're accompanying your spouse who is applying for a status, then that's a different thing. But if you are applying after your spouse gets her or gets approval of her student visa, oh sorry, you're saying your wife has secured. Well, you're a lucky guy because her age is 43 and she secured a student visa, so that's a great thing. So yes, you can still apply. You will apply for TRV, which is a visit visa, and it will ask you if your spouse has a status in Canada. So at that point of time, you must say yes, and you should explain what the status is. Similarly, for your children, you will be issued visitor records when you arrive in Canada, and you should carry your wife's documents, her student documents, as well as in her approval letter from the college where she's studying. Accordingly, you will be able to get a visitor record. Visitor record basically allows you to stay for a longer period or longer duration of time exceeding 6 months, which is otherwise applicable to visit visa. Once you come to Canada, you are absolutely open. You can apply for a work permit as well. You can apply for a work permit online, or you can also apply for a work permit while you're applying for your visa, or you can apply for a work permit at the port of entry. All these options are open to you. All these details are available on CIC website. The good thing is that your wife has already got her study visa, which is actually quite a difficult thing, especially when the age exceeds, because there is a large, rather very big period of gap. So that's a good thing that she has her visa. And once she arrives in Canada, either you can apply for it yours later, or you can apply now. Your work permit, you can apply along with your visa, or you can apply once you come to Canada. All the options are open to you. The good thing is that she has the visa. So that's the best part. Good luck with that. I mean, good luck with your travels when you get to Canada. Now, Tanishtha Sikdar says, I'm currently working as a full-time employee in Canada on work permit. Okay, I have applied for PR and currently I'm waiting to obtain the score in 2 segments. 1 year Canadian work experience and valid Lamia exempt job offer. Okay, I'm completing 1 year and will be eligible for valid Lamia exempt job offer as well. Now my question is, after getting ITA in March, if I get transferred to the USA from the same company, after that I submit all my documents corresponding to my applications, will my valid job offer still be valid? Yes, your valid offer will still be valid because it states that the whole purpose of giving you those points is so that you have a job when you arrive in Canada, and the main clause that makes the job offer valid is that the job offer should state that let me just switch this off, sorry. The job offer must state that your job offer is valid for at least 1 year after you become a permanent resident. So your having traveled outside of Canada has no relevance, because you're getting points for your past work experience. You have completed 1 year of work experience, you're getting points for that. You're getting points for your Lamia job offer, and you're absolutely fine. I'm assuming you are there on an ICT work permit, because that is when this applies. Lamia exempt job offers are not applicable to postgraduate work permits. So, I mean, as long as you are on an ICT work permit, this is fine. Okay. Your next question again is, after receiving ITA for the police verification, I have to submit for India, USA and Canada, because for the last 10 years I've stayed for 6 months or more. My husband needs to submit for USA and India, etc, etc, etc. Does your husband need to submit police verification for Canada? No. You need to submit PCCs for Canada only if CIC specifically asks for it. You do not need to provide a Canadian PCC upfront. There is no such requirement. Only if CIC asks for it do you need to provide a Canadian PCC. After I have submitted police verification for USA, can I submit to USA for short visits to meet my husband? You can certainly travel, but do that after you get your AOR, because PCCs, if it's not your country of residence, the PCC should be applied from outside that country, and it stays valid until your next visit to that country. So as long as you have submitted your application and then you travel to that country, then you don't need a PCC anymore. Then you can travel by all means. But before submitting the application, please do not travel. That will make your PCC invalid. Okay, next one is from Rudransh. He says, the situation is that I will be applying for Express Entry in May 2020. Okay, I'm an Indian citizen. I will not be living in India in May next year because my company's work. I will be leaving India in February 2020. My questions are: do I need PCC for other country where I will be in May 2020? Okay. For Indian PCC, should it be collected through India or outside India? Can I apply for Express Entry in May from another country? If I plan to travel back to India for 15 days after staying for 6 months, blah, 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 blah. Okay, first of all, May 2020, we are like still 6-7 months away. Okay, first, that's the first thing. What the requirements are, what the criteria are, we do not know. For example, PCC requirement until about almost a year and a half back was that the PCC was required for your cumulative stay for 6 months or more. Then overnight, it was changed for 6 months or more in a row. So we do not know how it will be applicable in the coming month or coming year 2020 in the month of May. It's too far to sort of give that kind of an information. However, as far as the current requirement is concerned, first of all, you can apply for Express Entry from anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter where you're applying for because you always refer to your work experience in the past. PCCs, if it is your current country of residence, the PCC is valid for 6 months. Okay, so that's not, unless otherwise stated on the PCC. If you are applying for a PCC which is not your country of residence, then you must apply for the PCC from outside that country, and that PCC remains valid until you go back to that country. So this, I think, should answer your questions, and you can apply from PCCs anywhere depending on which country it is and what the requirement of the PCC is. Okay, Shiba says, I have a query. I have an experience of 8 months in one NOC. About 7 years ago, I got a long gap between my studies, so did a job. 1 year experience from another NOC. Again, after a year of experience, same NOC as the second one. Now I'm again not in my home country. Okay, very confusing. So collectively, my work experience counts for 2 years and 8 months. Now I'm thinking to move back to my home country and work for 4 more months to complete 3 years of experience. Please tell me if it's a right planning. It is absolutely the right planning, Shiba. No issues there. You have said that you have 1 year of experience in one particular NOC, so that obviously makes you eligible for Express Entry because that is the mandate requirement that you must have 12 months of continuous work experience. As long as you have that minimum requirements taken care of, from there on you can add additional periods of work before or after that, and combine them together to claim cumulative work experience for your comprehensive ranking system score, which is your CRS score. So no issues there. Please go ahead. The next one is from Roy Rajorshi. He says, I have masters in social science, but I'm claiming NOC 1241 as it matches my work. The NOC needs completion of secondary school, etc., etc., etc. In that case, will my education rise a mismatch with my work if I don't claim point for my masters? Okay. For Express Entry, there is no requirement to match your work experience with your employment. So there is no problem with your work experience at all, Roy. You can absolutely go ahead with this. Whatever be your master's degree, as long as your work experience is in your chosen NOC, there is not a problem. We have previously posted this particular post that there is a ministerial instruction which very clearly states that the employment requirement mentioned under the NOC in the NOC database are not applicable when they are assessing your application under Express Entry. So there is no reason for you to be concerned about. On my channel, this YouTube channel, you can also look for another video where I have covered this subject, and you will be able to find this information in detail. Nothing to worry there. Sagar says, I need your help to understand for the process of ECA from PEBC. My NOC is 3131. Is it compulsory for pharmacists to get ECA from PEBC? Yes. If your NOC is 3131, then you must get your education in pharmacy evaluated from PEBC. Your NOC code is 3131. What is the NOC code for a pharmacist? Just let me just take that. Just give me a moment, guys. I'm just quickly going to check this NOC so we can understand what exactly the query is. Yes, 3131 NOC is for pharmacists, and if you're using the NOC of 3131 for a pharmacist, then it basically means you need a license to practice this profession, and thereby CIC has very clearly said on their ECA page that you must have you must have your degree of pharmacy evaluated from PEBC. I think it's very clearly stated there. That should not even be a question, to be very honest. I'm going back to where the questions were. Whether you're a drug pharmacist or not, as long as your NOC is 3131, you will need your education to be evaluated from from PEBC. That's what CIC very clearly states on their website. Dia says, I would like to know about visit visa, query from Pakistan. Well, Dia, please go to CIC website, check how you can come to Canada. There is one section which says, I want to come to Canada as a visitor, and then please follow the requirement as it states there. Mohsin says, does SINP really reject application of master's degree holders who do not have ECA for their bachelor's degree? Mohsin, excellent question. I'm glad you asked this because I wanted to clarify this myself. Okay, so in the past, very recently, we have seen somebody who got their applications refused because they did not have their bachelor's evaluated but only master's evaluated. Okay, there are two aspects to this whole process as far as Saskatchewan is concerned. The first one is that you are claiming points for education, because the minute you're claiming points for education, therefore you need the ECA to validate your points for education. That's the first aspect of this entire process. So basically, if your NOC is such where there is no specific education requirements listed in their in the SINP website, then you by all means can provide only master's evaluation and you will be given points for your degree. Saskatchewan website, by the way, and I've done that in my last video, states very specifically and categorically on their website that all your credentials must be evaluated, all of them. Post-secondary, so you don't need your 10th and 12th to be evaluated. You will need those also to be evaluated, if at all those are your highest credentials or highest qualifications, and you're claiming points for a respective NOC. But if you have a bachelor's and a master's, you do not need your high school diplomas evaluated. But they have categorically stated that they want all the credentials evaluated. And so where does the whole thing come in? Where is the whole confusion? The confusion is because for a lot of the NOCs, they have listed specific programs or the length of the program, or they have mentioned the person must have done diploma or a 3-year program. So for example, I'll give you one example. For example, you have done, or you are claiming points, or you are filing your SINP application under 2173, 2174, which are the IT NOCs. Now, for these IT NOCs, Saskatchewan is saying you must have at least a 3-year program in computer science, computer application, information technology, etc., etc. I don't remember exactly on top of my head, but something of those lines. But in this case, now, if you are to submit only a 2-year master's as your evaluation, now you are in a gray area, and it could well be an issue because you haven't given an equivalence to a 3-year program to Saskatchewan to establish whether you actually have completed a 3-year program or not. Yes, everybody can understand that a master's degree is done after bachelor's degree, but then again, as you know, in Pakistan, a bachelor's degree could well be a 2-year program, and it is not a 3-year program. Therefore, it becomes an issue there, right? So you need an equivalency. So for example, your 2-year bachelor's program, if it is not evaluated, would mean it is a 2-year program. But if it is evaluated as a 3-year bachelor's program or a 4 years bachelor's program, now you're on the safe zone. So that is where the confusion is coming from, and that is where the problem is coming from. I would suggest that if there is nothing specific mentioned about your NOC in terms of education requirements, you're in the safe area. You could go with your highest degree evaluated and you're fine. But if at all SINP has mentioned specific qualification, specific degree, specific education requirement in your program, then you are in the gray area. Then it is always better to make sure that you have evaluation done for all your programs. Let me just quickly check something else here. Excellent. All right. I just wanted to check if it's still working fine because I was on a different screen. Didn't want to sort of be talking to myself and not knowing whether you're still on live or not. Okay. I hope that answers your question. Floor says, I'm self-employed. I own a retail business. I have all the documentation proving my ownership and income tax, but most of the sales were in cash. Is there a way to prove cash payment? I will get reference letters from my clients mentioning they were paying cash. Thank you in advance. Now, excuse me. Floor, it's a good question, but at the same time, you have to keep in mind when when you are a self-employed individual and you're being paid in cash, cash payment is always a difficult one to prove, obviously, because there is no trace of that money exchanging hands. All CIC wants to establish that that period of work was remunerated, that period of work was paid. So what I would suggest is that if you have no other way of proving, or rather if every single transaction in your business was always in cash, then I would ask you to get it written from your clients as well that they were paying in cash. If you are issuing them cash receipts, then please provide copies of that. If there was a cash voucher, cash payment register, something of that sort, which sort of documented that you were being paid in cash and you were receiving receipts or vouchers, please provide that as additional. And obviously a letter from the client, or rather in your reference letters from the client, they should also state that your remuneration or the payments were made in cash. So that should help you out a bit, because the onus remains on you as an applicant to prove to CIC that you were paid, your knock is valid, your work period is valid, that you do own the business that you're saying that you own. All these things need to come together and prove and validate your work experience. Okay. Lydia says, I wrote to you in private. I'm sorry, Lydia, I do not respond to messages which are sent to me in private. I'm sorry about that, because there's just tons and tons and tons of them, and I will never be able to get around those. Kalbe says, is home top-up loan an issue for PR? Bank told me it reflects as a top-up loan in the bank statement along with the existing home loan. So will IRCC consider this as a loan, as a home loan, or will it be a liability? Well, regardless of whether it's a top-up loan, home loan, or whatever loan, first of all, you need to declare the liability. That's the requirement from CIC. Second, as I said earlier, provide a payment plan. Even if you have taken a loan against an asset, whether it's your home loan, whether it's a auto loan, car loan, as long as you provide a payment plan as to how you intend to clear that liability before you get to Canada, so that your settlement funds are seen as in positive as you have provided, you should not have an issue. But do explain the way you're going to clear your liabilities. Okay. Your next question is, I have been maintaining the required Saskatchewan proof of fund in my account from the last 1 month and planning to submit the application. I took a personal loan. I have been paying EMI from the same account. Will the Saskatchewan deduct the loan amount and then consider the fund? If I pay the entire personal loan, etc., 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 entire amount, okay, there's just too much of steps in your question asking what to do. Well, it's as simple as that. First of all, Saskatchewan has not clearly addressed the issue of loans or declaring the liabilities. However, settlement funds, the way the settlement funds should be, they should be unencumbered, they should be free of any lines, they should not be taken as a loan. So if you have taken loan to basically show your proof of funds, then that's not right. That's not gonna be, I mean, I'm sure somebody is gonna have a problem with it. But again, as long as you can explain how you intend to clear your liabilities, you should be fine. As such, when Saskatchewan is looking at your bank statements, their primary concern is that your funds should be at least 3 months in your account, and you should have had, I mean, you should have had those funds in your account for at least 3 months before the submission date, and those funds have always stayed more than the required amount for the period of 3 months before the submission date. And at a later time also, they can ask you for updated statement. At that point of time also, your funds should be more than the required amount, or equal to or more than the required amount. As far as your loan amount is concerned and the EMI is concerned, well, Saskatchewan can always come back to you and ask you what this liability is about and how you intend to clear it. So I don't see much of an issue there, but be prepared to give an answer to Saskatchewan if they ask you more in detail about your loan. Okay, Avinash says, I want to claim points for my sibling in Canada. For proof of residence, will the bank statement stating her rental address and driver's license suffice? Lease agreement states her name slightly different as compared to her passport, and it also comprises of names of other occupants of the house. Just want to understand if I can use bank statement plus driver's license instead of lease agreement. Okay, Avinash, just the bank statement by itself does not prove that the person is residing in Canada. Okay, driving license also does not prove that the person is residing in Canada. They are asking you for proof that the person is residing in Canada. So therefore, I would suggest that you do provide the lease agreement as well. You provide the bank statement, phone bills, because it shows if you, at all there are any calls being made, etc., etc. Bank statements if there are any transactions being made within Canada, so that can help, of course. But on its own, just giving bank statement will not help. Do provide the proof of residence in terms of your did you say lease agreement? Yes, lease agreement as well. Other occupants does not matter as long as you provide that this person is living in Canada or residing in Canada. So do provide the lease agreement or any other proof that you could additionally. I mean, phone bills, credit card statements, bank statements. Yeah, even a joint lease with somebody else is not a problem. Washi says, any update about the rural and northern immigration pilot program? How to seek a job? Okay, great question. You know, somebody asked me to. I mean, I've been asked to make a video again and again on this RNIP thing, and I've been not wanting to do it because there is so much of ambiguity and there is no real clarity as to what is happening with RNP, and I didn't want to make a video and create more confusion. There are tons of videos already made by tons of people who are giving tons of information. Some of them are trash, some of them are absolutely rubbish, but then some of them actually do give you the information. Most of the videos, basically, how do they go? I mean, it's a simple format. They will take you to the screenshot of the website and just scroll through it and read every single thing, which you can do by yourself. So basically, purpose of the video gets defeated. Your question about what is the update? Well, the update is at least 2 communities have already started accepting applications. One of them is Sault Ste. Marie. A lot of people call it as Sault Ste. Marie. Well, I've been told it's not pronounced as salt or saw. It's pronounced as Sault Ste. Marie. Okay, so that's number 1, which is in Ontario, and another one is Altona in Manitoba. These 2 have started accepting applications for community nomination. St. Marie, if you actually go to their website, and they have listed the whole program details quite well, they have actually gone and made it much more difficult and complicated. They have, though it was not a requirement, but they on their own, because you see, the whole purpose of rural and northern immigration pilot program is to encourage people to move into these rural communities, because people don't want to go there, right? People want to live in these big large cities. They want to go to Toronto, they want to go to Vancouver, they want to go to Montreal or Ottawa or Calgary. Nobody wants to go to these smaller cities, though they are perfectly fine. They're very beautiful cities. Communities are very welcoming and very warm, but people obviously don't want to move there for variety of reasons. So the purpose of this program is mainly to attract people to come and live there, and people are not doing so, right? So what St. Marie has done is that they have gone ahead and created a points system if you wish to get any nomination from their community, and you must score at least 70 points for them to consider you. And then they have listed certain occupation group codes, where basically if your NOC is in one of the group codes, only then will you get sufficient number of points. Then you must have, though the program has a requirement of only 1 year of work experience, St. Marie has gone and prescribed additional points if you have a longer period of work experience. They have then given additional points for your age. They have given additional points for your spouse work experience, your spouse language skills. I don't think so. Spouse work experience, they have given additional points. Obviously, there are a lot of points if you have previously resided in St. Marie, or if you have a job. You have previous work experience there. If you are studying there, so you'll additional points. So based on this, St. Marie is trying to establish how serious you are about residing in their community. So obviously the prerogative is theirs, because they want to make sure that you will live in their community. Otherwise, what's the point of giving it to you? Now, your next question was how to seek a job. On my last time I checked, there were about 40-50 jobs listed in the Manitoba community website, and they are approaching it in a different manner than St. Marie. So as in how each community comes online and opens up to accepting applications, and they will be doing it gradually. from now on until April of 2020, different communities are starting at different times. I think they're trying to get their software and their back-end processes sorted while they start on this. But to get a job is it's one of the most difficult and frustrating things, and I absolutely agree with that. But at the same time, it's just like seeking a job elsewhere, right? So if you're in your own home country, how would you look for a job? You will reach out to employers, you will go on the job sites, you will network with people. Sometimes you would even travel to certain places and meet, or rather try and meet with employers. Same thing applies over here. It's not no different. People try to sort of hype this up by creating different videos and saying different things as to how to find a job. Well, it's no different. You go on LinkedIn, you connect with people, you network with them, you find employment within your own peers, connect with them, relatives, friends who are living in respective provinces or who can help you with these jobs. uh, Job boards, of course, the community boards, they will also help you in understanding what employment opportunities might be available. So that basically is how you probably will be able to find a job, because mind you, people are finding jobs, they are looking for it. Yes, the community programs are very heavily biased towards people who have been living in that in that community, but come on, I mean, it is their prerogative, right? It is, they want people to come and live in their community, so they will obviously want to give more preference to people who are living there already, because they know that these people will continue to live there, versus somebody who is just seeking to come to Canada, and with all due respects, might not even have the intention of wanting to live there. They just want to use that as an entry to Canada. So communities are being pretty are being pretty prudent as to how they wish to bring people in, and that are absolutely fine. Okay, next one is from Rushabh. He says, can we get a reference letter signed beforehand, about 6 months ahead of getting an ITA? Yes, you can, as long as your dates are mentioned correctly and that is the period of work experience you're claiming. Yes, you can. Not only 6 months, you can get it even 2 years, 3 years in advance. uh, Diksha says, I may be having RR, which is review required on job duties. In this case, do you recommend sending a new reference letter from employer or wait for it to dissolve? Diksha, I cannot answer that question, because first of all, I do not know what exactly is the issue there. Review required could be for any number of reasons. Review required could be because your reference letter did not have a date on it. It could have an RR because there is no signature on the on the reference letter. It could have an RR because it's on a plain piece of paper. There is no contact details of the employer. It's on RR because they tried to verify your employment. They couldn't find the employer online, or they couldn't contact the employer. It could be RR because your duties and responsibilities are copy pasted directly from the NOC. It could be RR because your duties don't match with the chosen NOC. It could be RR because you did not mention your duties at all. It could be RR because your title is not mentioned. It could be RR because your salary is not mentioned. So, I've given you already nearly 10 reasons why there could be an RR. So I can't recommend anything because I don't know. But if you know where the area where your application or your documents are lacking, by all means, be proactive and provide them additional documents to prove or to strengthen your case. But you have to be mindful of the fact that any document you provide to CIC without them asking for it, then it is entirely their discretion whether they will accept it and attach it to your application or not. All right. I'm going to close this Facebook post because people are still commenting here, and it's not fair to people who are there on the other forums and also posting questions. So I'm going to close this one for the time being. Just give me a moment, guys, while I can quickly get this thing shut. Why do I have same page open everywhere? Okay. Now on to the PNP group. Okay, Nitin Kumar says, is there a realistic chance for people with scores less than 450 or around 400 for a PR in 2020, or it's only going to get tougher? Okay. Interesting question. A very frequently asked question, a very debated question. Honestly, I do not have a crystal ball to look into and see what exactly CIC is planning, what they're doing, what they intend to release in terms of scores, or what scores will be happening a few weeks later or next year. I mean, did I or did anybody or did anybody else ever think that 475, 472, 460s, high 460s is going to be the average scores come end of 2020, 2019. None of us did, right? I mean, in 2017, scores were at 413 at the lowest ever, and we were all thinking, okay, 420s is going to be the norm. Then became 430s, then became 440s, then became 450s earlier in 2019, and now we are even with 460s, people are worried, right? So very difficult to say anything about how the scores are going to move around. But what is absolutely clear, that the number of people who are entering the pool with scores in excess of 450 is phenomenal. I mean, just too many people. I'm not sure how and where the source of such high scores is, but they're there. So for example, just to give you a brief example, you need to be under the age of 30 with a master's degree and a CLB 9 at least or more to get a score or a high score of 460 plus, right? You could have 2 degrees or more also, and you can still score a similar score. I mean, because there will be a bit reduction in from masters to 2 degrees or more. But scores of 475 plus and 3,600 people getting it, where is that happening? Now, that will happen when you have some Canadian work experience, Canadian education, or job offers or provincial nominations, and that's where things will start to make a difference. Now, Canada does have nearly 500,000 international students, and they have been building over the last few years. Obviously, all these people are now coming into the pool, to the stream. A lot of people have been getting job offers. PNP applications are always, the quota is always mentioned. So people start thinking because of PNPs, the scores are going up. PNPs do not push the scores up because PNP targets are already built into the whole process. PNP targets are announced each year in the beginning of the year, and we know 60 to 65,000 applications will come from the PNP. That's already been announced, so that's not a shocker there. But it's the high score coming from people, whether they have Canadian work experience, education, or very, very high language scores, masters. You add all of this and the scores are skyrocketing. So what is the solution then, right? That's what you're going to talk about next. Solution is obviously start looking at PNP. Start looking at PNP because there is a quota of 60,000 applications out there, okay? And Quebec, we're not even talking about Quebec. Quebec is something totally different. That's about another 50,000 applications. But we don't talk much about Quebec is because they prefer French, and the French speakers get a higher score, and there is a serious push towards attracting only French speakers to that province. Therefore, if you're not a French speaker, it sort of, you tend to be on the bottom pile of the whole system as far as Quebec is concerned, unless they change or start accepting other applications as well, which as of right now they are not. So that leaves us back to the regular provinces, other provinces for 60,000 applications. Well, Ontario has been quite aggressive. Okay, Saskatchewan made this amazing change where they, instead of being only centric with only 20 NOCs or 21 NOCs, they brought in 200 NOCs. Now that opened doors for so many other people who otherwise wouldn't have had a chance. Okay, Alberta, though they haven't clarified what exactly that they are looking for in terms of the application, or rather they haven't specifically mentioned their selection criteria or selection factors, but they have been picking up lots and lots of profiles. Now keep in mind, all these people who are getting their notifications of interest, whether from Ontario, Saskatchewan, Alberta, Nova Scotia, don't forget Nova Scotia, even Prince Edward for that matter, for the some profiles that they pick up, these applications under the regular Express Entry stream with such high scores probably would have had no chance to get through. So these guys are going through, and a lot of these NOCs are generic NOCs, 1211s, 1241s, 1221s, 1215, 1231, 1213. All these NOCs, 1111 and 0621, I mean, I'm just trying to say of the NOCs which are known top of my head, 0421, of course, that one as well. So all these otherwise with the lower scores had no chance to get through. But because of the provincial nominee programs, obviously there is a lot of margin, there's a lot of availability there. So if your NOC is such, which you cannot find in any of the in the PNP programs, then try to look for an alternative NOC which may be similar to what you're doing, which may be matching what you're doing. Sometimes people become quite closed eyes, or rather very specific about the NOCs because their friend had used the same NOC or their colleague had used the same NOC. It may not always work for you in a similar manner, or you may be shutting down doors if you're not looking at alternative NOCs that could also apply to your job. So keep your mind open, keep your eyes open, keep looking for different options. Just the way Saskatchewan changed the program overnight, you never know. There could be something else in the future coming up. This year is just winding down, and hopefully the next year or the new year will bring something better, more changes, and we can all look forward to that. Okay. Amjad Radwan says, I have received NOI from Alberta, okay, and I'm submitting my application next week. As per their last update, they have already issued 5,500 nominations. What will happen to the rest for the pending applications? Now, okay, good question. First of all, if you have received a notification of interest, just stop worrying about how many they will issue or they not issue or whatever. Just go ahead and file your application. In a lot of cases, they will continue issuing their nominations over the period of this year and then into the next year. So your nomination will come from the quota for the next year. So don't worry about it. For example, Ontario, once they had completed the quota for the current year, they usually start issuing out nominations from the quota from the following year or from the next year. So, don't be too worried about this. Though having said that, keep in mind, most of the provinces have also very clearly stated that just sending you out a notification of interest does not mean that they will also issue out a nomination. They can stop at any point of time without any obligation. So keep that in mind. Submit your application as fast as possible, as soon as possible, and I don't think you have anything to be worried about. You'll be fine. Then the next one is from Lakmina, says, I have IT degree and HR diploma. Working experience is 5 years. In Navy as executive officer, which is related to HR and administration. 2 years experience in private company as HR, where I'm currently working. Can I use both work experience? Yes, absolutely. As long as you have proper documentation to prove your work experiences, you can most certainly claim points for your work experience. No problem there. Okay, we will close this one as well. Close this one, this page, and we are coming now to, wow. Okay. YouTube questions now. Let's go to the YouTube questions. Finally. Oh my God. These are plenty here. Now, first one from Danish. I'm sorry, but I will have to go through from the top because these guys have posted it earlier. Danish says, I'm an engineer, but my NOC aligns with technologist. In Canada, if I would try for licensure of professional engineer, will there be a problem as my EE profile has knock of technologist? Well, to be very honest, Danish, I am not familiar with the requirement of licensure for different categories. I would suggest you go to the respective regulatory body or regulatory authority website and check what the requirement is. If they have a requirement of you having to have work experience specific in your line of education, then well, they might not consider this. But I think there is always some sort of an exemption if you have if you have the education, but if you are willing to give certain examinations, then you could well be on your way to getting your licensure. But again, I have very limited knowledge on this or understanding of this. I would request you to go back to the website of the regulatory body. Okay, the next one is from Nitin. He says, any idea for roles and responsibilities? Do we use the exact keyword or the meaning similar to the keyword? Okay, you never use copy paste. Okay, so you just cannot go to the NOC, copy paste everything and put it in your reference letter and go with that as your reference letter. That won't work. In most cases, that will create problems. Sometimes it might outright get refused. So please don't do that. The idea is that your reference letter should convey the same message in terms when somebody, for example, if I'm reading the NOC and if I'm reading a reference letter, I should understand that you have done the same job. So whether you paraphrase, whether you use different words, whether you use different keywords, as long as you convey the same meaning as has been mentioned in the NOC, you're good. All right. Gaurav says, I have worked for my current employer for 2 periods, of which previous period I had cash salary, which sorry, will just vouchers and salary certificate suffice? Though for current period I have payslips and ITR. Yes, Gaurav, that should be fine as long as you can prove you were paid, whether it was in cash or through a bank transfer. You're fine. Provide payslips, cash salary, vouchers, salary certificates, or whatever document you can in order to prove your work experience. You're good. Neha says, I got my IT on the 31st of October, but my Express Entry profile expired on the 8th of November. Well, and my consultant didn't inform me about the same. What should I do now? Am I eligible to apply? Yes, you are eligible to apply. You see, the entire purpose of an Express Entry profile is to get an ITA. That is the whole purpose of an Express Entry profile. The validity of the Express Entry profile is for 12 months if you do not get your ITA. So for example, my Express Entry profile is valid until the 24th of November, which is tomorrow. But I get an ITA today. Well, if my profile expires tomorrow, it doesn't matter because I have my ITA and I can continue with my ITA. So the expiry date of your application is irrelevant, expiry date of your profile is irrelevant if you have received your ITA. Please continue with your ITA and you will have no problems. Neha further says, my consultant is not giving me legal rights to access further. I want to pursue my own case, but they are threatening me by saying they will cancel my EOI. The name of the agency, I will not take names. Well, I can't say much on that. You can absolutely port your application. You can link your application to your own account. We have posted a video on how you can do that on our Facebook group. Please come back to the Facebook group, search for that video, how you can link your application, how you can port your application from your consultants. Once it comes back into your account, you can pursue your own application. That's not a problem. As far as the agency saying they will cancel your EOI, well, I mean, depending on where you are from, check your legal obligations, check your legal rights and see what you can do about them. But it's extremely unethical and you should name and shame them. Certainly, I'm not going to name them. It's not fair for me to do that. Raj says, for IT consultants, reference letters who work at client locations, is it mandatory to include details about the clients in the reference letter provided by the employer? No, it is not. However, you must specify that in your letter of explanation or wherever else you can. For example, if you're working for a large IT company whose headquarters is in Bangalore in India, but you're working in the United States, right? Your reference letter will come from the office in Bangalore, but you're working in the United States. So they do not correlate, right? So you will need to explain exactly what's happening over here. In addition to that, if you can get an additional letter from your client or from the company you're contracted to, that also helps. But no, there is no such requirement. As long as you can explain exactly what's going on over there and what the relationship between your client location work and your actual employer is, you're good. There is no problem with that. Vandana says, I need to understand calculation on work experience. Vandana, please check CIC website or you can Google CIC Express Entry grid point. If you click on that, you will get the link where the whole calculation of work experience has been mentioned, and that will give you a good idea as to how the work experience is calculated. Or you can go to the CIC website, to the CRS calculator, simulate different combinations of work experience, language scores, education, and you will again be able to see what the work experience looks like. Okay. Then we have Sudhir. Okay, Sudhir says, we have CRS of 434, just entered an Express Entry pool. My background is IT, knock so and so. There is no question there, so I do not know what I'm trying to answer. Okay. Harsh says, chances of PR for diploma holders. I don't know, Harsh. Please check CIC website for the points, follow the trends, and then you know what the chances are. Guys, it's very difficult for me to individually answer chances of, what the chances are, whether your knock is so and so, whether the chances is Saskatchewan, chances in Ontario, chances with this CRS score. I can't answer that question because I don't know. You know your profile better. Check your points, go to the respective PNP website, check the past scores, the trends, and accordingly you will be able to say, nobody here can predict what the scores are going to be in future. Nobody can tell you which NOC is going to get drawn out in the next draw. So, honestly, nobody can give you the chances as such. So I'm going to skip the chances question. Then Vishal says, I did not get salary in account, have all other documents. What do I do? Well, Vishal, provide proof of work experience. If you are not paid in account, however you are paid, please provide proof of that. Provide pay stubs, pay slips. If you got a salary in cash, provide cash vouchers and a salary certificate, you're fine. Again, Sudhir is asking chances. I'm sorry, Sudhir, I just answered that question. Glenn says, does SINP capture the data from Express Entry with respect to work experience shown, or we can change the company name and work periods? Glenn, Saskatchewan has, or rather any province has very limited data available from the Express Entry profile. They cannot see the entire profile of your application. So yes, you can make changes as long as you're able to prove the work experience and it is genuine, you should be fine. Okay, Raj says, I want early childhood educator job offer from Saskatchewan. Well, Raj, please find an employer and look for a job. You will be able to find. Then we have Ayush says, is one bank letter enough or from all the banks where we have an account? Well, Ayush, if your one bank has sufficient amount of funds available for your proof of funds, then you're good. You just need letter from the one bank, because there is no specific requirement from CIC which states that you must declare all your bank accounts. So this word all is missing. Based on that, I would just say provide details of the account where your proof of funds are and you're good to go. Sarah says, I had price bonds maintained for 3 months, but I had nothing to prove that it is mine except affidavit made by myself. Saskatchewan says it's not acceptable. Should I let my application expire? Well, Sarah, unfortunately, price bonds or any bonds which do not have your name and there is no way for you to establish that these belong to you and that you had basically purchased them, well, unfortunately, then there is no way to establish the ownership. In that case, you don't need to let your application expire. You can simply cancel your application. If you cancel it, you can create your new expression of interest and come back into the pool. Yasser says, proof of funds, can I have only cash money without a bank statement? No, Yasser, cash money cannot be proven. The ownership cannot be proven. I mean, I could have a bundle of cash over here with me, and how do I prove it's mine and where did it come from? So no, cash money is not proof of funds. It must be in your account. And then the next one is, okay. Lathia Amit says, what minimum fund required for owner operator? Can we borrow funds from my country bank? Okay, Lathia, owner operator program is a very underrated program. A lot of people don't talk about it because a lot of people don't know much about it. Owner operator is a very smart program. First of all, it's not a immigration program. It's not a PR program. Okay. Owner operator program was always intended to, and it's meant for people to start business in Canada, obtain a work permit as an owner and operate their managed business, but it does not lead to a PR program or a PR application as such. In its the way it was designed, in its design, it does not lead so. But where is the loophole? The loophole is that because in order to get a work permit as an owner or as an owner operator, you will need an LMIA, which is issued by Service Canada, and that owner operator LMIA will allow you to claim 200 points in your Express Entry application because it is issued under a 00 NOC, because you're the owner, director, CEO, all these positions are senior management positions of your own company, and you're able to claim points, 200 CRS points. Therefore, you can link it with your Express Entry application and of course apply for your PR. So as I said, it's an underrated program because people haven't really been able to identify how it can be used. As far as requirement of funds is concerned, there is no specific requirement because as I said, it was never meant to be a PR pathway. Funds have never been specified as to what is required. However, when you make an application to Service Canada, ESDC, you should be able to prove that you can start a company, you have enough money to start a company, sustain it, manage the expenses, hire employees, rent the premises, or buy a business. So I would suggest anywhere in the range of 125,000, rather 100,000 to 200,000 Canadian dollars is something which you should look at when you're starting a business in Canada under the owner operator program. Okay. Surender says participant. Okay, all right. Thank you, Surender. Bikramjeet says my current score is 459. Current cutoff is 470. Kindly advise chances. I just answered that question. I'm sorry. Okay, Mehmet says how many months of pay stub I should submit for each work experience for non-Canadian work experience. All of them or last 6 months is good enough. My annual salary matches only with my last 6 months. Okay. There is no again specific requirement of to how many pay stubs you should submit, but I would suggest for the entire period of work experience you should submit the last 4 months statements and random another you can add 6 to 8 statements. So if you are working for 5 years, provide the last 4 months bank statements, and for the earlier years provide random 10 statements over the period of the entire work. So that should suffice. From there on, if CIC has a further requirement for additional specific period that they want to check, they can always ask you for it, but this should suffice more or less. Okay, then Amori says if the MEP is passed, so medical is passed, and biometrics email is received, does that mean the check, the file and your documents complete? It's like primary approval from CIC officer. Okay. The CIC account does not tell you when the checks are complete and what has happened. Okay. But based on the various GCMS notes we have seen, based on various applications we have seen, we can assume, and the word is assume, that once you get your medical pass and once you get your biometrics request letter, we can assume that your R10 checks, completeness checks are done, and your application is been accepted for completeness, and from there on the assessment will start. So yes, that's the assumptions we can make. Harsh has been spamming the group. Harsh, please don't do that. That's not, that's not appreciated, guys. Don't do that. Okay, Mohammed says, is there any chance? Again, Mohammed, again, another chance. I'm sorry, I do not know chances, because you're asking me what is a chance with 63 score. I don't know. I do not know how many people are in the pool. I don't know how many people with your NOC with 63 scores are there. I do not know what Saskatchewan has decided in the future. So yeah, no, nobody knows what is a chance for what score. Nobody can even tell you what is a chance for score 69. I mean, it seems like a good chance because it's already happened, but do we know what's going to happen tomorrow or the next draw? We don't. So unfortunately, I cannot tell you what is the chances. Ramakrishna says, how many months before applying for Saskatchewan I should have proof of fund amount in my account? Ramakrishna, the requirement of proof of funds for Saskatchewan is very simple. They want your funds to be in your account and as available to you for at least 3 months from the date you submit your final application to Saskatchewan. So I would say if you have at least funds in your account for 1 month, then you can create your expression of interest. The idea being that, for example, if I create my expression of interest today and the funds are already in my account for a month and I get an ITA from Saskatchewan tomorrow, then I will have 60 more days to comply with the requirement of 3 months, and from there on I will be able to submit my application. So the requirement is 3 months age of the funds from the date of application to Saskatchewan. Okay, repetitive. Okay, Ripon says from 1st December immigration rules will change. Is it true? Immigration rules will change? I haven't heard of any such requirement or any such information, any such news. You see, immigration rules are always changing. They're always fluid. If you are to go on to the Saskatchewan, if you are to go on to the CIC Gazette page or their update page, you will see that they are always changing some or the other requirement or some or the other rule. So immigration rules are always fluid. They're always changing. There is no such notification from CIC saying that from 1st December we will be changing X, Y, or Z. So please do not fall for such kind of rumors. Okay, again, quite a lot of repetitive questions. Rahul says, I worked for a different client through a company A. Okay, again, repetitive. Sorry guys, I'm just quickly going through the questions to see which ones are not repetitive. Okay, Amit says for Saskatchewan knock code 2174, I have APGS certification. Can I claim experience working in IT? Well, again, I would suggest you go back to the Saskatchewan website and check what is the requirement for 2174. I have a feeling, rather I'm quite sure about it, that they have specifically said that they will not accept engineering degrees to validate this particular knock. So unfortunately out of luck there, but do please go back to the Saskatchewan website and verify the details. Ranjana says for Saskatchewan, is it mandatory to have PG diploma in same stream of job like bachelor's? Well, again, go back to Saskatchewan website, check the knock that you want to apply under. If that and check what is the requirement for that NOC. If that NOC specifies a requirement of a bachelor's degree, then you should have one. If it specifies that you just have 1 year diploma or 1 year program, then 1 year diploma program will work just fine. But do go back to the website because obviously I do not remember every single NOC's, every single requirement. Okay. Soren says, can I claim 50 points for Ontario Skilled Trade Certificate for 2171? So no, sorry, you cannot. The reason for that is the 50 points for Certificate of Qualification is for FSTC, which is Federal Skilled Trade Worker Program, and not for Express Entry. I mean, not for Federal Skilled Worker Program. So please check the requirement again. You cannot claim points for Ontario Skilled Trade under NOC 2171 under Federal Skilled Worker Program. And 2171 is not eligible under the Federal Skilled Trade Program. So, you can't. Raj Singh says, I'm not responding to your question. I do not. Raj Singh, if your question is, okay, what is your question, Raj Singh? Sorry. It says Saskatchewan points. I have, okay, I don't understand your question, Raj. It says you have 46 points out of 100. So obviously you're not eligible, but if you get job offer from Saskatchewan, your points go to 76. Well, that's good. If you have 76 points, of course, you can apply for Saskatchewan, and the chances are you will obviously go through very quickly in the whole process because you have the Saskatchewan job offer. Sagar says, my spouse and I are going to apply for Express Entry. Does first applicant's employer or company must have website or domain which say, okay, it's not a mandatory requirement that your employer must have a website or a domain. It is a requirement that CIC should be able to validate your work experience. So what happens is when they first get your application, they start checking you online through the open data sources or open web sources that are available. And the first thing obviously is through the website, through the LinkedIn pages, through any backlinks, any other professional links that your company might have on the internet. If they can validate your employer through those links, then that's fine. If they can't, then it's a problem. Then the next step is for them to make physical calls, verification calls, and sometimes even go and verify the physical employment details. But all this will then take more time and will add process time. So that's it. But I mean, having a domain, having a website is not a requirement as such, but it certainly helps process the application faster. Imtiaz says, is it necessary to give my father's tax paper if I get a gift deed from him? No, it is not a requirement at all. You do not need to. Sorry, I'm just give me a moment, guys. Okay, Imtiaz, it is not necessary to provide your father's tax documents. It's not a requirement. If the amount was transferred into your account through a banking transfer, through a check, through an online transfer, through a wire transfer, which shows a tracking of where the money came from, all you need to do is provide the gift deed. You do not need to provide your father's tax papers or the account details. In some cases, CIC has come back and asked for it, but under normal circumstances, they don't. They're just fine as long as the transaction was verifiable and electronic, or even through a check for that matter.